Hello and welcome to Project Hope's Horse Welfare Victoria's second presentation by me, Dr. Lesley Hawson. Today we're going to talk about applying the 5 domains of animal welfare to everyday horse care. In 2012, something marvellous happened in the world of animal welfare. What it was a declaration of consciousness in animals. Essentially, it recognised that animals have sentience. Sentience is the capacity to experience feelings and sensations. To be honest, we still cannot say with certainty that animals with nervous systems are conscious. But what the statement does do is recognise that animals with complex and centralised nervous systems, with organs that perceive the world and have a capacity to process information centrally, strongly indicate a level of consciousness. The presence of nociceptors, also known as pain receptors, and also receptors for opioids, which reduce pain, strongly suggest consciousness, as only a conscious being can experience pain. Behaviours that look like pain reactions or focused attention to a novel task also indicate consciousness. Having accepted animals experience pain, satisfaction, etc., we need to recognise that previous models of animal welfare have not accommodated the implications of sentience in our horses. The 5 domains model for animal welfare assessment and monitoring was developed some time ago. It is a science-based structure for assessing animal welfare, which recognises that animals can experience feelings ranging from negative to positive. It provides a best practice framework to assess welfare in animals of all species. The 5 domains are an extension and evolution of the 5 freedoms, which some of us may be familiar with, and were originally developed in the 1960s. The 5 domains have been embraced because they allow us to progress beyond preventing bad animal welfare to actively promoting positive animal welfare. The model provides a framework for overall assessment of an animal's quality of life. In fact, the 5 domains model has already been adopted by the International Federation of Horse Racing Authorities, as these organisations recognise that they will lose their social licence to operate if they do not prioritise horse welfare. The realisation associated with acceptance of sentience in animals results in the recognition that good welfare is not simply a matter of providing positive experiences. Negative experiences represent opportunities for the horse to express agency. For example, the younger horse might move away from the specific shown as reprimanding on this figure and gets a nice rush of dopamine in doing so that enhances the social learning process. That is why we must use ethical techniques, including reducing our cues to the bare minimum, and look for opportunities to make positive deposits in the quality of life bank balance at every opportunity. A horse's welfare status is informed by many facets of its life and can vary from very poor to very good. It is the overall balance of subjective experiences of the horse itself within a prescribed time that determines if the horse has had an overall good quality of life, or as I like to say, a life worth living. The first domain that we talk about in the 5 domains is that of nutritional conditions. Essentially, this is about what the horse has access to feed and to drink. Essentially, it's normal to have some hunger. Hunger drives the animal to eat. You can also have too much food, which can lead to obesity. What we're looking for is to optimise the positive conditions, as this is what provides the overall positive balance for the horse's welfare. So how do we meet the Domain 1 provisions as horse owners? First of all, we need to make sure that the horse has ready access to water. Be aware that groundwater and bore water can contain contaminants or be too salty. Dental health also cuts into nutrition. If you give too many sugary substances, it can lead to decay and problems as the horse ages. Overfeeding is as dangerous as an imbalanced diet, as we know that obesity can lead to problems such as laminitis and equine metabolic syndrome. Nutrition and provision of foodstuffs are not only important for life, but they often present a great opportunity to enrich your horse's environment. Watch how horses will choose what grasses or herbs they want to eat given the opportunity. They are not designed to live on a single type of forage. Watch a horse eat an overripe piece of fruit. There is no doubt in my mind that they enjoy the process. Increasingly, we are recognising that the more varied the horse's diet, the more varied will be its gut microbiota, which gives it the capacity to respond better to nutritional and mental demands. This is a 180-degree shift from previous thinking, where you established the diet and only varied it when circumstances changed, i.e. the horse was working harder or it was colder than usual. Now we need to consider variation as a vital part of the nutritional domain. Grazing in mixed pastures will obviously meet a lot of this requirement for variety, but for those of us with little grazing, as is the case of a lot of us sweating on the autumn break, it is important that we vary the forage, so mixed hays are good unless there is a medical reason that your horse cannot have these. Obesity is obviously a big no-no. That is why you need to be careful how much you feed and base your rations on the ideal weight for your horse. I have provided a link to the wonderful Australian invented program Feed Excel here. I do commend this program to you. I find it very, very useful to help ensure that my horses are getting the nutritional requirements that they need and hopefully living a good life, as Teddy shows here. The second domain is related to the physical environmental conditions and their associated domain 5 effects. There is so much to unpack on this slide, and it's a bit overwhelming. Unsurprisingly, this domain is all about the physical comfort of the horse and its ability to feel safe, comfortable and secure. The added component now is that there is a recognition that we have to assess the provisions from the perspective of the horse, and recognising that our facilities, as a bare minimum, should allow the horse to make its own decisions around these provisions. This is providing agency to the horse and makes positive deposits in the quality of life bank. So how can we do this? We ask a lot of our horses. Transport cannot be a positive experience for them. being restrained cannot be a positive experience. Domain 2 is one area where we can make deposits in our decisions of how we manage our horses. We have to do all we can to provide positive experiences for our horses to make sure, on balance, they have a life worth living. Providing a safe place where they can at least get 2 hours of REM sleep, which only occurs when they are lying down, is imperative. Safe means predictable. Safe means the horse does not have to modify its behaviour beyond a comfortable repertoire to accommodate any imposed restrictions. Domain 3 is all about health conditions and disease management. In the past, this domain has exercised much of our attention, especially for those in the veterinary profession. Ironically, many of our health interventions in and of themselves have negative impacts on the horse's welfare, and yet the benefit of practices such as oral drenching for parasite control, dental care, even castration has an overall positive effect on the horse's welfare and life. So how do we go about meeting Domain 3 provisions in a way that is going to be an overall positive impact on the horse's quality of life? Perhaps the most important thing we can do is to maintain our horse's body condition score at an appropriate level for their time of life and the activities we are asking them to carry out. Underweight horses experience weakness, fatigue, and presumably hunger as the energy balance is negative. Overweight horses experience a variety of metabolic-related conditions, including laminitis and the diabetes-like equine metabolic syndrome. Both these extremes are negative welfare conditions and should be avoided. Maintaining a horse at the fitness level appropriate for its lifestyle is equally important. Exercise helps maintain an appropriate body condition score and conditions the musculoskeletal structures so that they can withstand the demands of the exercise process and reduce the rate of injury. Moving young horses and elderly horses in ways that prepare and will maintain body tissues is vital if the animals are to optimise their quality of life now and into the future. Track systems, equiculture approaches, and paddock paradises are ways to help achieve this. Keeping animals in stalls is not. Parasite control measures that match the vulnerabilities of the life stage of the horse is vital. Parasite control for foals and youngsters will prevent damage to body tissues that could potentially compromise both longevity and overall quality of life as the horse matures. There are plenty of resources available on the wonderful internet now on parasite control. Wormer resistance is becoming increasingly common, so it is equally important to avoid overworming our horses. Use of fecal egg counts to guide your decision making around worming protocols will optimise your horse's welfare, slow down the advent of chemical resistance in the parasites, and ultimately save you money. Equine dental care has become a very long way since I graduated as a vet at the start of this century. God, I sound ancient. Horses stop having any teeth reserve around the age of 15. So they go from having teeth that are constantly erupting to teeth like we do as adults. There is no new tooth material. As a consequence, teeth actually need to be conserved wherever possible if the horse is to continue eating comfortably into old age. The only way to optimise the chances of this occurring is to have regular dental checkups with qualified veterinary dentists. It is not possible to carry out a complete dental exam in the horse without sedation and appropriate restraint. Indeed, dental exams without sedation is nothing but a negative experience for the horse that outweighs the positive benefits. Sedation provides a means by which we can still achieve the outcomes health-wise with minimal impact on the animal's quality of life. Horses under the age of 5 and above the age of 15 should ideally have dental exams twice a year, while horses in the prime adult years between these two ages can get away with 12 monthly checks as long as they have no known pathology. Hoof care has also changed a lot in the last 50 years. These changes have been due to the research conducted into the horse's hoof. Some horses who are genetically blessed and live in environments that encourage healthy hoof growth and wear may need very little hoof care, but most horses are not so lucky. The traditional 6 to 8 week hoof trim cycle that I grew up with is now recognised as inadequate for most horses. The longer toes arising over this time have significant impact on the biomechanics of the horse's leg, foot, and overall movement. Current recommendation is no longer than 4 weeks between trims, with some practitioners preferring more frequent rasping to permit ongoing wear if the environment is not abrasive enough. Obviously, you will need to have hoof protection of some sort if your horse is engaged in an activity that wears the hoof down more than it can replace with new growth. Injury and disease are intrinsically negative experience for animals as they always involve impairment of optimal function and/or pain. This can be one of the toughest areas for horse carers. Detecting and managing pain in a prey species is particularly challenging. If the horse is displaying any behaviours that could indicate pain, then it is our obligation to assume that it is suffering pain and act accordingly. Horses can and do experience intractable pain. In these situations, euthanasia is a valid option. Domain 4 is all about behavioural interactions, and it's probably an area that was not sufficiently covered in the 5 freedoms. In this domain, we are focusing on how the animal interacts with the environment around it. Environments that do not encourage interactions will have a negative effect, as will environments that are perceived by the animal as being unsafe or frustrating. Environments that encourage interactions and seeking behaviour, exploration, foraging, are thought to develop positive effects. So how do we meet the domain 4 interactions with the environment provisions? Essentially, we need to provide environments that encourage the horse to perform its normal species-related behaviours, but also have choices and how it will interact with that environment. Part of the environment is their interactions with other animals. We all know that horses are social animals. They need to have contact with other members of their own species. Increasingly, we understand that failure to do this will lead to loneliness, yearning for company, a failure to thrive. So how do we meet these domain 4 interaction with other animals provisions? In this picture, we can see Project Hope Licorice, Ruruya Blossom and Project Hope Caramel engaging in quite an active interaction. Interactions with other animals, as we learned earlier, do not always have to be positive. Negative interactions are learning opportunities as well. However, horses do need to be able to see and touch herd mates. We also need to be aware that we humans usually determine what herd mates our horses have. They often don't like each other, or they bond so closely with each other that they experience loss when we separate them. It is very important in this area that we keep track of what is happening on balance in terms of social interactions. Horses need to feel they are safe through predictability in their environment, but also the opportunity to investigate, explore, play. These experiences mean the horse learns to learn, and that is super important if we are going to use them for riding or driving or any real interaction with humans. Ultimately, learning to learn is what makes for a successful adaptive animal, and ironically, easier to train and interact with. Safety also means the room to escape adverse stimuli and access resources. This section of Domain 4, Interactions with Humans, was added in 2020 as a result of a collaboration between David Mealaw and his colleagues in New Zealand, the father of the 5 domains, and Australia's own Professor Paul McGreevy and Dr. Andrew McLean. It recognises that many animals, particularly domestic animals, have behaviour interactions that are also with humans. Research with many different species has shown that how the human interacts with the animal has a profound effect on whether the interaction is experienced as negative, neutral, or positive by the animal. So how do we go about meeting the requirements of Domain 4 in our interactions with our horses? How we interact with our horses is extremely important. First of all interactions between humans and horses should be as safe as possible. Humans must not rely on the horse to behave safely to preserve the human safety. In doing so is not only dangerous but unfair. We are the ones with the bigger brains after all. The International Society for Equitation Science training principles provide a good roadmap how our interactions with the ridden horse can move towards a more positive effect for the horse. We do need to recognise that all our interactions with our horses are putting either positive deposits or making negative withdrawals from the overall Domain 5 welfare state of the horse, not just when we are actively training them. Finally, Domain 5, looking at the mental state and effects of our horses. Accepting sentience means we must accept all animals, including us, especially us, experience rapidly changing mental states or feelings from moment to moment. And what we might think is negative for the horse may actually be a positive experience. How else would you explain the bitey face games that go on between geldings? Perhaps it is the opportunity to choose to play or not play these games that is as important as the play behaviour itself. In accepting sentience, we must also recognise that the internal state of the horse, its hormonal state, its energy states, even its sexual arousal, all play a role in determining what the effective state of the horse is at that moment. All 5 domains play into an overall assessment of the welfare state of the horse. Is the horse living a good life? An assessment of what is a good life for ourselves, let alone another species, is very difficult. Horses are exposed to a wide range of experiences every day that can have negative or positive welfare impacts. The internal functional states and external circumstances of the horse give rise to subjective experiences, which include feelings, emotions, and moods, which are technically called affects. The welfare state of the horse reflects the overall balance of its negative and positive experiences at any particular time. Knowing what generates these experiences directs attention to what needs to be provided to the horse in order to minimise its negative experiences and to give it opportunities to have positive experiences as the horse understands them. Practical welfare management therefore revolves around knowledgeable provision of resources, facilities, and opportunities, collectively known as provisions. In this slide, I've made an attempt to summarise what could constitute a good life for a horse. You might not agree. Life in the 21st century is one of compromise for us all. We are living on a planet of fixed resources. This is a challenge for both us and our horses. The good news is that horses, like all animals, are adaptive, with great neurological flexibility. Part of the secret of a good life must be to learn to like what they do have. Not every day is a good day. We all have to live through unpleasant and even adverse experiences. The key for our horses is to provide, on balance, a positive welfare balance. I think that our horses can actually teach we humans a lot about liking what we have. And perhaps that's what makes it all worthwhile. Just going to have a little diversion from the main theme of this presentation to talk about longevity in horses. Longevity in horses is a reasonably newish concept. When I was growing up, any horse over the age of 8 was termed aged. I'm not sure if that reflected the welfare of the horses at the time or was more of a measure of our inability to understand what was going on with dental wear. Certainly, the average lifespans of wild horses depends on where they live and the environmental conditions they experience. Garrott et al. In 2005 estimated the lifespan of feral horses in Nevada to be only 5 to 6, compared to Hines in 96, finding that horses living on an island off the coast of Nova Scotia had an average lifespan of 15. Goreka-Bruzda et al. Found free-ranging conic ponies in Poland had an average lifespan of around 20 years for stallions and 18 years for mares. Closer to home in Australia, Hunt et al.'s 2019 study of brumbies in the semi-arid region of Western Australia found a similar lifespan to that of the conic ponies. This compares to Wallenius's study in 2008 that indicated brumbies in the Australian Alps had an average lifespan of between 11 and 14 years, perhaps reflecting the harshness of the environment. In terms of domestic horses, McGowan reported in 2011 that the median lifespan for domesticated horses in Australia is around 20 years, not dissimilar to that of the brumbies and the conic ponies. Recent research has defined the aged or geriatric horse as being 15 years or over, and a horse is very old if it's 30 years or older. So the question is, has the domestication of horses really made any difference to their lifespan? And what are the implications in terms of welfare? So, what are the take-home messages from this presentation? First of all, good welfare is a balancing act. Look for the opportunities to provide positive, affective experiences for your horses, so when the negative affective experiences that are part and parcel of any horse's life occur, there is plenty of currency in the quality of life bank account. Train and interact with your horses in a way that has an overall positive, effective experience for your horse. Use the tools that are out there to help you in this quest. Part of this process is becoming the sort of creature that your horse likes to hang out with. Finally, just some notations. All the images are from Pixabay unless otherwise attributed. The 5-domain model for animal welfare with particular emphasis on how it relates to domesticated horses can be obtained at that link that's pictured there. And if you feel like following me for more information and discussion on this and other matters, please check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a positive, effective experience with your horse next time. Bye.